And we're back, UFC 323 this Saturday from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is the final UFC pay-per-view on ESPN, and it is main evented by Merab Dvalishvili and Petr Yan, their rematch now for the Bantamweight Championship. In the co-main event, Josh Van finally gets his chance, taking on the reigning defending champion, Alexandre Pantoja. What a 14-fight card to end the pay-per-view cycle this year. There still is one more card, though, next week. We have a flyweight main event in the UFC Apex between Brandon Royval and Manel Kape. Hopefully, Kape actually gets to fight week. And also, no one's talking about this, Neil Magny is fighting Yaroslav Amosov next week in the Apex. It's not the co-main, though. I think it's Amanda Lemos instead. Regardless, not a bad Apex card next week, so make sure to join us next Sunday for that. But for now, of course, UFC 323, Merab Yan 2. Folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. We'll have our PFL predictions tomorrow for PFL Mania, best bets on Thursday. Main channel Greedo plays daily NBA and college basketball best bets, so make sure to go check those out. College football and NFL predictions and content over there as well. Okay, on to the first of our 14 fights for UFC 323, and we kick things off in the featherweight division as Muhammad Naimov takes on Myron Santos. The former Ultimate Fighter winner in Santos is a pretty sizable favorite here against the Tajikistani and Muhammad Naimov. Little surprised by that. Now, I'm not surprised that Santos is a favorite. I'm surprised how much he is favored in this fight. I'll say this now. I would think on paper, Santos should be like minus 200. He's a 3-1 favorite in this fight, which is a little surprising. Yes, he's undefeated in the UFC. Santos is 3-0, winning the Ultimate Fighter via knockout against Khan Ofli, then beating Francis Marshall by split decision. I don't think it was. It shouldn't have been a split decision. It was pretty unanimous in my opinion, but whatever. Santos easily won. And then he beat Sadykhov in his last fight in the Apex on the Burns Morales undercard by decision. Not the craziest fight, I'll say, but a victory nonetheless for Myron Santos. Again, Santos has been very good, though. I mean, he's shown very good striking so far in his UFC run. Wrestling-wise, he has a decent defensive wrestling game, and obviously he's going to need to show it this week against Naimov, a guy who I believe only has a chance in terms of wrestling in this. And I know Naimov has knockout wins, and he's shown his striking game before. Hell, he came into the UFC with a knockout victory over Jamie Mullarkey. But I think if Naimov's going to win this fight, he's going to need to grapple, and he's going to need to wrestle. Again, while these two guys share a common opponent. Naimov earlier in the year beat Khan Ofli in Saudi Arabia or in Abu Dhabi, one of the two. I think it was Abu Dhabi, actually. Naimov did wrestle quite a bit in that fight. I assume he's going to look to do the same exact thing against Myron Santos. I don't think he's going to be successful. I'm just saying we haven't entirely seen Santos against a really good wrestler just yet. I would consider Naimov a good wrestler. I mean, I saw Santos against Francis Marshall, and Marshall was able to get multiple takedowns in that fight, and that's what swayed one of the judges, I believe, to say Francis Marshall won the fight. Again, do I think that's a good scorecard? Absolutely not, but I'm not a judge, so I don't know. I think on paper, though, and really not even on paper, when we look at this fight, Santos should win. Santos should beat Muhammad Naimov. Naimov might get one takedown, he might get two, but Santos, in the Marshall fight, he gets taken down, he does get back up. I don't think Naimov's going to be able to hold Myron Santos down. And on the feet, Naimov, again, he's knocked out Jimmy Mullarkey. He was kind of there striking-wise with Nathaniel Wood at points and Khan Ofli. It's a different type of beast when you're taking on a guy like Myron Santos. Naimov's last fight was in Azerbaijan against Bogdan Grad. Bogdan Grad actually out-wrestled Naimov in that fight. Really close one. If you go back and rewatch it, I think you kind of have to give it to Bogdan Grad, honestly. I don't know how he doesn't win the first two rounds and Naimov wins the third, but again, whatever, I'm not a judge. I think Naimov doesn't really... I think he can remain competitive with Santos. And don't get me wrong, I picked Naimov to win his last fight against Bogdan Grad. I think Santos gets him here. It's just Naimov has not looked great in his last couple of fights. He did not look that good in the Bogdan Grad fight. Santos should be able to keep the fight standing, and he should be able to out-kickbox Naimov. And even if he does get taken down, I do believe Santos is going to get back up to his feet. Again, you look at Santos, 8 wins by knockout, 8 wins by decision so far. Looked good in the Ultimate Fighter. Obviously won the contract and won the season and won the show by beating Ofli and then back-to-back wins against Marshall. And again, beating Sadykhov. I know Youssef has never really reached his potential, at least what people thought his potential may have been. But beating Sadykhov puts you in a rare tier right now in the UFC. I mean, only Arnold Allen, Edson Barboza, and Diego Lopez have ever beaten Youssef in the UFC. Myron Santos added to that list in the spring. I believe he's going to beat Muhammad Naimov. I don't think he's going to get a finish. I'm going to go Youssef by decision. Naimov has never been finished by knockout before. His only loss is a submission loss to Felipe Lima, where actually Lima did kind of out-grapple. Well, he did, obviously. He choked him out. Yeah, I'm going to go with Santos to win by decision. I think you could see a knockout, but I'm going to go a decision win for Myron Santos. Probably 29-28 for the Brazilian. On now to our second fight of the night, and we go to by far the biggest favorite on this card. And yes, surprisingly, Merab Dvalishvili is not the biggest favorite on this card because Mansour Abdul-Malik is on this card as he's taken on Antonio Trocoli. So Abdul-Malik is kind of in a weird spot because he's 2-0-1 in the UFC. I think, they rescored his last fight against Cody Brundage into a draw. Originally a majority decision win for Mansour Abdul-Malik, but then they eventually overturned the fight. They basically, they scored a round that had just started. And they gave the round to Abdul-Malik. Brundage protested, and Brundage got the fight overturned. It's not the first time that Brundage has got a fight overturned, surprisingly. But, whatever. That's just how, Brundage is a weird fighter. I don't know. He's had a really weird career. Was on a main card of UFC 300 as well. But regardless, though, Malik initially wins the fight, but then, weeks later, it does get overturned, and it becomes a decision because they scored a round. I think that only 36 seconds of the round happened. What did they do? No, I think officially they just scored 2 rounds. I think that's what they did. Because Abdul-Malik headbutted Brundage. They stopped the fight, and then they just scored 2 rounds. One judge, so official scorecards apparently, one judge scored it 2-0 for Malik, and the other 2 judges scored it a draw. So on fight night, in Georgia, they gave it to Malik, but obviously, it should be a draw. It should have been a no contest, but I think it just got changed into a draw. So Malik is technically now 2-0-1 in the UFC, and he's not fought since the Brundage fight. I will not lie, the Brundage fight was disappointing. It was underwhelming for Abdul-Malik. Loses the first round, wins the second round, and, it looks good early in the third round until the headbutting in the third round is only 30 seconds, I believe, right? But regardless, it's a decision. It's a draw. Prior to that, though, 2 back-to-back victories for Abdul-Malik, beating Dusko Todorovic by knockout, beating Nick Klein by knockout. That's why a lot of the belief was, and I thought it too, well, Abdul-Malik's probably just going to run right through Brundage and knock him out as well, because hell, his Contender Series victory as well was by knockout over Wes Schultz, who, oh, by the way, Wes Schultz, now in the UFC. So, there's that. One on the last Contender Series season. Abdul-Malik should see no trouble against Antonio Trocoli, a guy who is nowhere near his level. Okay, Antonio Trocoli, 12-5 professionally, but 0-2 in the UFC. And, you can say, oh, well, his first fight was Shara Magomedov. And that fight, honestly, Trocoli was in it. He was, I don't want to say he was winning, but he was alive in the fight, and he was throwing back in the fight. But ultimately, right, Shara gets him out of there in the third round. I mean, the striking discrepancy is huge, but it was just, Trocoli's, he's still in the fight in the third round. Ultimately, Shara bullet puts him away. So then Trocoli gets booked for another fight. In the Apex, late 2024, against Tresean Gore. What does Gore do? Gore gets him in a standing guillotine choke and just starts wrenching it and chokes out and taps out Trocoli. Trocoli is now 0-2. He's getting another fight in the UFC, and it happens to be on a pay-per-view card. Okay, I'm taking Abdul-Malik to knock him out in the first. Trocoli, this is, okay, on paper, Trocoli does look like he should be pretty solid. He's 6'5", he's got an 80-inch reach. This is actually, wow, this fight's going to be on his exact 35th birthday. He just doesn't really apply himself to show off those skills. He's not a great striker. His grappling's really not there either. And honestly, watching Trocoli fight, I ask myself, what is this guy really good at? He won the Contender Series by neck crank in the first round. He's a huge underdog against Kenneth Berg, and he won, beat a Norwegian fighter in Berg. Fight ended up getting overturned to a no contest because I believe Trocoli was on performance-enhancing drugs. He was. And so he wins one fight outside of the UFC. He originally got gifted the contract in 2019, but obviously they didn't go through with it. He didn't obviously get the contract because it got overturned. He's actually rebooked to fight Kenneth Berg again in a random regional promotion. Fight never happened, though. Trocoli ends up winning one fight outside the UFC, and they re-sign him. Takes him 2 years to finally get his first fight because he pulls out of 3 fights. And then now he's 0-2 in the UFC after back-to-back appearances. I'm taking Abdul-Malik to win this fight. I believe Mansour gets it done fairly easily. I'm going to take Mansour Abdul-Malik to knock out Trocoli in the first round. You're 35, and it seems like you have no real future in the sport. So this probably does it for Trocoli in the UFC, as Mansour Abdul-Malik puts him away in the very first round. Abdul-Malik has a minus 1,200 favorite wins via first round knockout. On now to our third fight of the night in the light heavyweight division, and here it comes. Ivo Aslan taking on Iwo Baraniewski. Baraniewski making his UFC debut from Poland, taking on the Turkish fighter in the last Ottoman in Ivo Aslan. You know, the UFC career started well for Ivo Aslan. He was on a run. He had won back-to-back fights. He had beat the Pleasure Man in Anton Turkulagi, or Turkulaj, whatever the hell you want to call his name, say he is, the Pleasure Man. And then he knocked out Rafael Corcuera. All right, great. He's 2-0. Picked up a 50-second knockout victory in Abu Dhabi. Looks great on a pay-per-view card. Awesome. Then he runs into Ion Cutelaba, gets a huge step up in competition. He was a favorite to beat Cutelaba, and he gets submitted in, I believe it was a first-round sub against Cutelaba. It was. Then Ivo Aslan in Abu Dhabi gets Billy Alekina, ends up losing by decision. Now here he is, he's 2-2 in the UFC, taking on Baraniewski, who is unproven, I will say this, right? I remember breaking down the Baraniewski fight on the Contender Series where he fought Muhammad Ali. Not joking, the guy he fought, his name was Muhammad Ali. And he fought him, and I'll say this, I picked against Baraniewski. I picked Muhammad Ali. I liked more what I saw of Ali on the regional scene compared to Baraniewski, because I remember my problem with Baraniewski at the time was he hasn't fought a single decent opponent yet, and I didn't know what to make of him. And same thing with Ali. I remember going about that fight and saying, well, okay, Ali beat Jared Gooden going into this fight, and both these guys are relatively unproven, but Ali's got jiu-jitsu experience, and his kickboxings look good, so I'm going to go with him. And I just didn't know about Baraniewski yet. Well, Baraniewski proved me wrong, and he goes up there and he knocks out Ali with the first clean shot that he lands. So he knocks him out in 20 seconds, but that still does, continue my point. I don't know what to expect out of him. He looked good in the Ali fight, he knocks him out in 20 seconds, but again, that's not all you've done. You did not, in a sense, I would have rather, and good on Iwo Baraniewski for getting his contract, winning by knockout in 20 seconds, but I almost would have rather seen him go out there and dominate the first round, dominate the second round, and get a finish towards the end of that second round, because now I know what Baraniewski is. But just because he won by 20-second knockout, obviously he has to get in the UFC. Dana has said, I don't know anything about the fighters. I don't have any information about these fighters before I watch them fight in the Contender. That's why I like the show so much, because it's just all about the first impression. It's an open tryout that I'm watching these guys for the very first time. And that's fair. That's what makes the show fun. But in Dana's mind, again, he's just watching off the pure eye test for the one time he watches these guys. But in terms of the general public who watches these guys outside the UFC and sees their regional career, we don't know what to make out of Baraniewski yet. He looked good in the Ali fight, but again, it was 20 seconds. So how does he fare now against Ivo Aslan, who started his UFC run pretty good, and then now has just looked disappointing in his last two fights? And in the Alekina fight, really, Aslan is just hesitant to pull the trigger. He's just standing there, and he's letting Alekina lead the dance. He's not that far off striking-wise from Alekina, but Alekina just goes first, and it looks like Aslan is just hesitant. And really, it's coming off of the Cutelaba win, where he was very aggressive in that fight, ended up getting taken down, ended up getting submitted 3 minutes into the fight. You just don't know how that first loss affects fighters. First real big loss affects fighters, because Aslan actually had lost to the Pleasure Man earlier in his career, but got the win back against the Pleasure Man in his UFC debut. Aslan's got power. He hits like a truck. His grappling game isn't very good. I think Baraniewski actually, even though it is unproven and it's against random dudes in the regional scene, I actually prefer the grappling game and the jiu-jitsu out of Iwo Baraniewski. I guess the judo, because I believe, Baraniewski is he's got a judo background, if I'm not mistaken. It's just two guys who hit very hard. Two guys who hit hard, two guys who, if the fight goes the way I think it's going to, these two guys are just going to swing and someone's probably going to get put on their ass and knocked out. I would not bet Iwo Baraniewski at all. He's at a minus 215 favorite, and for his UFC debut, I absolutely hate that line. I would not bet it at all. I would not include it in a parlay. I would personally probably just stay away from this fight. I don't know what the over-under is and the method of victory is. Maybe I would consider that. I wouldn't straight up just bet the fight for a winner. I will say this. I'm going to pick Iwo Baraniewski to win. I'm going to take him to win by first-round knockout, but I do believe it's going to be another one of these fights where it's like, all right, I still don't know what we have out of him. Because he's going to knock out Aslan in the first round. I think Aslan is a shell of his former self after losing a fight. I think he's kind of just, gone to crap. Maybe I'm wrong, but we're still not going to know what we have out of Baraniewski yet. I want to see him fight Uran Saltabliev. The dude to just be Dayar Nurgoje. That's the fight I want next. That would be interesting because Uran is a huge dude, Kyrgyzstani, who can grapple. That's the fight I want to see Iwo have next, and let's see how good he really is. Or Billy Alekina you could do as well, I guess. But I mean, that's probably what I would probably schedule. Anyways, I'm going to take Iwo Baraniewski to win and knock out Ibo Aslan in the first round. Hesitantly, yes, but I think someone's getting knocked out, and I kind of like Iwo better right now. But yes, 100%. He's still unproven. But give me Baraniewski to win. UFC wants to finish here, and they're going to get it. So give me Iwo to win by first round knockout. On to our fourth fight, and it is the return of Jalen Turner. The Tarantula is back after retiring earlier this year. He is back in fighting Edson Barboza. You know, I've known Jalen Turner's obviously retired. He mentioned it at the end of his last fight. He basically hung up the gloves, and all of a sudden he's back. But I kind of just thought when I've known Jalen Turner's coming back for a while now. Obviously, we've seen it. I don't know why in the back of my mind I was like, oh, okay, he's back after like a year. Jalen Turner's returned. Okay, great. No, he retired earlier this year. It was in March when he retired. I don't know why I thought it was late 24. No, it was just this year where he retired. I don't know why I thought it was the December card last year. No, it was March. And Jalen Turner immediately after he retired, he went on like a podcast, I think like a week or two after, and said, yeah, maybe I rushed the decision a little bit. It was kind of in the heat of the moment, and I just said something I probably shouldn't have said. And obviously, he's back now. Jalen Turner is back and fighting Edson Barboza, and they're not giving him an easy matchup, even though I believe Edson is nowhere near what he once was. He's 39. I would have preferred to see Jalen Turner against a much lesser opponent, but it does make sense at the same time, though. You're taking on Edson, who I don't think is anywhere near what he used to be, has not won a fight since 2023 in that aforementioned Sadykhov fight, and it's a big name for Turner to come back to and probably win against. However, Jalen Turner is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, albeit against all big names. Mateusz Gamrot, Dan Hooker, Bobby Green in the fight where that referee wanted to see Bobby Green die in front of him. Renato Moicano and Ignacio Bahamondes. But I'm telling you, what that referee did was beyond what he just did to Bobby Green. He affected the career of Jalen Turner. Because was it Hatley? Yeah. What Kerry Hatley did in San Antonio, Texas that night, Austin, Texas, excuse me, on that Dariush Sharukian card where Jalen Turner drops Bobby Green and then just starts hammering away, hammer. He starts beating the crap out of Bobby Green on the ground, and Bobby Green's unconscious. But via the referee not stopping that fight, you not just ruined Bobby Green is getting old, but you ruined basically the last good years of Bobby Green's career. You also ruined Jalen Turner, because Jalen Turner's been more than hesitant now. He does not want to pull the trigger at all. And as we saw in the Moicano fight, he dropped Moicano at UFC 300, went like this after he knocked him out, said, oh, I did it, I won, didn't follow up. Fight goes on to a second round, and Moicano finishes him in the second round. And then he just ran into Bahamondes in his last fight. Bahamondes subbed him very early in the fight. Okay. Triangle choke off the bottom for Ignacio Bahamondes. I think Turner's going to beat Barboza, though. And I understand, again, the lack of aggression is a little concerning. I understand. Guys, Barboza, I think he's slowing down. I don't think he fought a horrible fight against Jakar Close, in all fairness, but I really don't think he did. I kind of thought Barboza actually won, but whatever. It's just Barboza's 39, and how many more fights can he keep having? Really? Jalen Turner, yes, he's lost a lot of fights. Look at the guys he's fought, though. And you can say, well, who has he beat? Well, Brad Riddell, King Green, Bobby Green. He's been in big fights, though. And Jalen Turner, I think he's going to have to go in here and probably mix it up a little bit with Edson Barboza. That's usually the pathway to success against Edson. But, the judges gave a fight to Jakar Close over Edson Barboza, even though Barboza outstruck him by 20 strikes. Oh, well, Jakar Close was doing more damage. Come on. Jakar Close couldn't get a takedown in that fight. And they gave Jakar Close a unanimous decision. I still don't know how I feel about it. No, I know how I feel about it. I think it's a dumb decision. But anyways, I think Jalen Turner is going to beat Edson Barboza. I think Turner's striking is going to be good enough. I think, grappling wise with Turner, we know he has it. Has he always gone to it? No. But mainly this is Barboza's age and how much height Turner is going to have on him. Turner is going to be 4 or 5 inches taller than Edson Barboza in this fight. Reach-wise, though, actually they have about the same reach, but it's going to be tough for Barboza to fight his style and fight again that typical Edson Barboza kick-heavy attack against a guy like Jalen Turner, who is so long and taller than him. I think Jalen Turner is going to find a way to get it done. I think the UFC is kind of throwing him a bone here. Okay, you're back. Go fight a guy who's 39, who is now making walk 27 into the octagon. No, my math is completely wrong there. 32 into the octagon. I don't know how I was 5 fights off. But against the guy who's making his 32nd walk into the octagon, lost back-to-back fights. Last one was over Sadykhov. It's a fight that I do expect Turner to win. I think he gets it done standing. I think if he needs to mix up some grappling, I do think it's there too for him. And it's just how many fights can Barboza have at a high level at 39? Exactly. I'm going to go with the tarantula here, Jalen Turner, to win his comeback. I'm going to go Turner. I'm going to go Turner by decision. A lot of people are picking knockout. I don't see that at all. I'm going Turner by decision to get it done. I'm not that confident in it, though. Should he be minus 270? No. Minus 265? Hell no. I would not bet that. Give me Jalen Turner, though, to win. Next up, we go to, wow, this is on the early prelims. Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira, or I guess the start of the main prelims. Wow, Marvin Vettori. Vettori's taking on Bruno Ferreira. I'll say this now so I can just fully explain my reasoning as I go. I'm taking Marvin Vettori to beat Bruno Ferreira, okay? I believe Vettori actually gets one here. And this is beyond just the point, well, Vettori has to win a fight. Vettori, he's so due for one. He needs to get a win. It is beyond that, guys. I don't know how Bruno Ferreira beats Marvin Vettori. That's really my question. How does Ferreira win? It's close odds. Marvin's minus 115, Ferreira's minus 105, but legitimately, that's my question. How does Ferreira beat him? Okay, so Ferreira has been built upon big knockouts and submissions. That's what he does pretty much in every single fight. His last fight was in New Orleans at 319 against, let's say this, a low-level fighter in Jackson McVeigh. Let's also say this too. Ferreira is going from fighting Jackson McVeigh, who just lost to Zach Reese on 2 days' notice, to Marvin Vettori. For comparison, Bruno Ferreira on that same card again where he fought McVeigh, Vettori fought Brendan Allen, who's now back in the top 5 after his win over Rainer de Ritter. So that just shows the discrepancy there. Okay, and we'll get into types of opponents in a second, but more on that. But Ferreira wins by first round submission. Okay, again, I saw Zach Reese beat Jackson McVeigh on a couple days' notice by sub as well. But Ferreira's been built upon submissions and big power and big knockouts, right? Look at the Dustin Stufzus victory, the spinning back elbow win in Louisville, Kentucky, the Phil Hawes victory, Ferreira's first fight in the UFC, which is still his best win over Gregory Rodriguez, massive win over RoboCop, right? Okay, both of those things are exactly what Marvin Vettori does well. What do you mean by, he does well against power? Yeah, he's got the best chin in the UFC. No one can knock this Italian out. You can't knock Marvin Vettori out. Marvin Vettori, guys, I've watched so many fights where Vettori just takes damage upon damage upon damage upon damage, and he just keeps walking forward. There is going to come a day where that chin eventually gets cracked, and he's done. And when that day happens, Vettori's officially done in the sport. I'm not willing to give up completely on Vettori just yet, and this is why. Because as long as that chin's there, he has a fighting chance in a striking fight. But okay, I don't think Ferreira's going to crack the chin. It would be kind of fitting if this is finally where it happens. But Vettori's only 32, by the way. Okay, I don't think this is the fight where the Vettori chin actually gets cracked. So if Vettori's able to eat a bunch of shots, which, by the way, we are expecting a striking-heavy approach early out of Bruno Ferreira, because that's where he's best usually, where the power is at his best is going to be early in the fight. Okay, say he can't knock out Marvin Vettori. What does he do next? He grapples. That's Vettori's bread and butter. That's Vettori's strong suit is grappling. Nobody really just out-grapples Vettori other than Jared Cannonier, but Jared Cannonier literally fought the perfect fight against Marvin Vettori to the point where Vettori was out for 2 years after the fight because of all the damage Jared Cannonier did to him. One of the more underrated beatdowns ever. It was a good fight, but it was a beatdown in the summer of 2023. No one talks about it, though, because it was in the UFC Apex. But that was, I mean, guys, I remember watching that fight and saying after the point, too, like, I was so impressed with Cannonier, I thought he should have got a title shot off of that. It was such a dominant win over Vettori. It was crazy. Nobody's ever done that to Vettori. But anyways, Vettori comes back. He loses at main event to Roman Dolidze. And then he just lost in the featured prelim to Brendan Allen in Las Vegas. Good fights. The Allen fight, the Dolidze fight was whatever. But now here he is against Bruno Ferreira. I think he's going to beat Bruno Ferreira. Because again, how does Bruno beat him? You're going to knock out Marvin Vettori? Don't think so. You're going to grapple and choke out Marvin Vettori? Don't think so. How else? Guys, this actually favors Marvin so much. Marvin might not win the first round because Ferreira, I think, is going to sell out in the first round. I think he's going to sell it for a knockout, and then if he doesn't get it, okay, immediate takedown, try to sub the guy. He's not going to be able to do either of those. And Ferreira in this fight is going to wear down after the first. We do see this a lot out of Bruno, but especially in this one, as I think he's going to see a short window to beat Vettori, because Vettori is typically a 5-round fighter and a guy that does get better as the fight goes on. I can't say the same about Bruno Ferreira, right? So if Ferreira can't get Vettori out early, then he's going to obviously, I think he's going to wilt, and I think Vettori's going to get going with the striking game. I don't even think we see Vettori look for takedowns. I think Marvin can just win a volume striking battle against Ferreira on the feet, because honestly, when I look at it and when I watch Bruno Ferreira fight, not too concerned about his volume, because that's not how he fights. It's all power, and it's takedowns. Well, it's submission-based grappling. I mean, like, Abus Magomedov saw a lot of success grappling Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, I'm going to be going here with Marvin Vettori to win. I don't see the pathway for Ferreira here. I don't see it at all. Marvin should outskill him on the feet after the first round. Grappling-wise, and Vettori's got that. I think he might drop the first round, which might make Vettori a very live underdog, but still, I like Vettori straight up at minus 115. I just don't see the pathway of how Ferreira beats him. I'm going to go Marvin to win the fight by unanimous decision. On now to the lightweight division, as we have got Francis Fares Ziam taking on the Azerbaijani fighter, now fighting out of Brooklyn, New York, and I believe Syndicate MMA as well, Nazim Sadykhov. Should be a fun one. Should be a really fun fight. Obviously, Fares Ziam has been on a run recently. Ziam picking up 5 consecutive wins going into this fight. Wins for Michal Figlak, Jaya Herbert, Claudio Puelles, Matt Frivola, and a big win in his last one over Mike Davis. That was all the way back in February, but Ziam's back, and he's taking on Nazim Sadykhov, an all-action type fighter. I mean, the fights this guy's had so far in the UFC have been pretty legit. Hell, go back to his fight on the Contender Series where he he won a fight over a convicted felon and a guy who deserves to rot in prison for the rest of his life. Ahmad Hassanzada, if you don't know what he did, go look it up. It's disgusting. Sadykhov then beats Evan Elder in a very fun fight, submits Terrence McKinney, fights Vaishlev Borshev. And it was a good fight, really good fight. The fight IQ, though, was at its lowest for Sadykhov against Vaishlev Borshev. I was so disappointed in how he fought that fight against Slavikov. I've been over that before, but it's like, I don't know what he was doing late in that fight, man. He let Borshev beat his ass in the 3rd round, and it made no sense. Anyways, comes back, beats Ismael Bonfim, and then beats Nicholas Mota as well by first-round knockout. Gets dropped early in the fight against Mota, and then eventually drops Mota in the 2nd round en route to winning via knockout. So Sadykhov's had a very up-and-down rollercoaster UFC career, but yet he's still undefeated. He's 4-0-1 in the UFC. For Ziam, obviously started off a little bit rough. Had his UFC debut, lost to Don Madge, lost a fight to Terrence McKinney, but then went on to win 5 in a row, and now he's on a run. The biggest win, obviously, was that win in France over Matt Frivola on the main card of the Moicano Saint-Denis card. So Ziam's on a run. He was supposed to take on Cal Fernandez a couple months ago, but I believe there was, the official ruling on that fight was death in the family for Ziam, so that's unfortunate. But he is back. He was, by the way, a pretty big favorite in the Fernandez fight. Now, I will say Sadykhov's a much more difficult fight than Cal Fernandez is. Fernandez ended up fighting Harry Hardwick on that card and winning, honestly, in all fairness. But I mean, like, come on, Ziam would have beaten Fernandez, I think. Ziam now gets Sadykhov. This should be good, man. I mean, Sadykhov, all action on the feet, can grapple too, as we saw in the Slavikov fight. But you know what? Like, everyone knows how to grapple when they fight Vaishlev Borshev because, Borshev doesn't know how to wrestle in his own right. We've seen that time in and time out. But Fares Ziam's good. Ziam mixes and blends his striking with his grappling and his wrestling fairly well. And we've seen that pretty much in every single Fares Ziam fight ever. It's striking until, I'm changing levels and I'm taking you down. He's a difficult guy to deal with, man, because Ziam can get you everywhere. I mean, he can get you thinking, okay, he can get you thinking we're going back to wrestling mode, like in the Frivola fight. And that fight's a really great performance for Ziam, right? Because he's winning, he's up 2-0, gets in the clinch with Frivola, boom, knees him in the head. Frivola thinks that we're going back to grappling again after Ziam had taken him down multiple times in that round. Frivola gets back up to his feet, clinched up, boom, Ziam hits him with the knee coming out of the clinch. I mean, yeah, Ziam is talented. He doesn't really get the most finishes other than that Frivola fight. I mean, that's his only finish so far in the UFC, which made that so incredible. We just need to see more of that. I'm going Ziam to beat Sadykhov. Just because, Sadykhov, he's more fun, 100%. Ziam's more skilled. Sadykhov is there to entertain, and he's a fun fighter, and he's skillful as well. I do believe Ziam has more skill than him, just in an all-round sense. Ziam gets in trouble on the feet, he grapples. Ziam combines his grappling with his striking. We say it all the time. Your wrestling and your grappling makes your striking better because now Sadykhov has to worry about that grappling game and that wrestling the entire fight. I do think Ziam is the better fighter. Ziam is younger as well, which is a little bit surprising just because Ziam's been in the UFC for longer. Again, Sadykhov, all-action fighter. He is super fun to watch. I do think Ziam is the better fighter, though. Striking-wise, I do think they're a lot closer than people are going to think they are just because, yes, Sadykhov's high volume, high pace. Ziam can strike pretty well. He's got a pretty decent jab, works well, again, like in the Frivola fight, works his striking well in the clinch as well. I like Ziam to get this one done. And if he needs to wrestle, if he gets in trouble on the feet, that is there for him as well. I'm going with the French fighter here out of Lyon, France. That was a French accent. Ferreira Ziam will get this one done. He's going to beat Nazim Sadykhov and win it by unanimous decision. We move on now to our next fight, and we go to the only women's fight on this card. Not the final women's fight of the year, though, because don't you worry, we have a potential #1 contenders fight next week at strawweight between Amanda Lemos and Jillian Robertson. No, Zhang Weili's coming back down to take the title again, isn't she? I guess. Anyways, Macy Barber, this is at flyweight, though. Macy Barber takes on Karine Silva. I've spoken actually quite a bit about Macy Barber, oddly enough, fighting-wise, obviously. Because of her fight against Erin Blanchfield and how it's been, rescheduled and reshuffled. Well, I guess it was never rescheduled, but, actually, they were supposed to fight a long time ago. Regardless, obviously, Barber had a seizure before the fight, so Blanchfield said, I'm going to take this as a win. I'm never fighting her ever again. She can't make it to the octagon. I win via seizure, is essentially what Erin Blanchfield said. I'm never fighting her again. So Barber is now rebooked against Karine Silva. Blanchfield she's already fought, coming off a victory now in her last fight over Tracy Cortez, where she did struggle a little bit in the first round, but eventually found her victory, so good on Blanchfield. Barber now gets booked against Karine Silva, and I've said before, and this is probably going to give away the pick, but it's fine. If you've been watching the channel, you know who I'm picking here. Barber's going to have to fight Blanchfield again. They're going to have to rebook that fight just with the way that the women's flyweight division is all settled out. And we'll talk about that in a second. But now on to the specific fight. Yeah, I do believe Barber wins. I do believe Barber is better than Karine Silva. Silva, Karine Silva comes up kind of the same time as Natalia Silva. There's two Silvas. So obviously, they're both Brazilian at the same weight class at 125. They're both on their runs, making their way up the rankings. Natalia Silva never loses. She's going to get a title fight against Valentina Shevchenko. And Natalia Silva, we need you to end the boring run that is Valentina Shevchenko. I cannot handle another 25-minute Valentina Shevchenko fight where she just lays on her opponent. I can't handle it. I can't do it anymore. Natalia Silva, save women's flyweight. I'm so sick of watching Shevchenko. Shevchenko used to be fun. She's not anymore. She makes a lot of money in the Fiora fight, though, so I cannot complain that much. But, please, when will the reign of terror end? Anyways, though, Natalia Silva hasn't lost. Karine Silva lost to Viviane Araújo, and that was the minute where I said, I'm out on Karine Silva. You have to beat a 38-year-old Viviane Araújo. What the UFC was doing there was basically putting all the stock they've ever had in Viviane Araújo and trying to put it on Karine Silva. And Silva, who was undefeated in the UFC, 4-0, could not take advantage. She did just win her last fight, beating Dione Barboza in their rematch of their unknown fight in 2019. Reminiscent of Valentina Shevchenko fighting Liz Carmouche. Nobody knew about their initial fight, but I guess it happened. Okay. Karine Silva beat Dione Barboza in the rematch after she had, initially lost the first fight. Silva wins it in very unconvincing fashion. It's a bad fight. Don't go back and rewatch it. Nothing happens, and I guess Silva wins. Like, legitimately. You could have gone either way. It's boring. Nothing happens. Silva threatens with some submissions, but we're not moved by the performance. So, good on Karine Silva for winning is what I can say. Macy Barber obviously lost. Well, I'm going into the Erin Blanchfield mindset. Could not make it to the octagon in her last fight. But Barber is currently on the best run of her career. She has now won 6 consecutive fights, beating Miranda Maverick, in quotation marks, beating Miranda Maverick, beats Montana De La Rosa, beat Jessica Ai, Andrea Lee, Amanda Ribas, and then Caitlin Kuchagian, or whatever her new name is, Sirmana. She's just Caitlin Kuchagian to me. Barber was then booked against Rose Namajunas, had to withdraw, And then Blanchfield doesn't fight that fight either. We haven't seen Barber since March of 2024, but I think Barber beats Creedy Silva. Guys, Barber's better striking-wise, and she's good enough defensively, grappling-wise, or wrestling-wise to stay off her back against Silva and really just taken down by Creedy Silva. Barber is a very physically strong woman at 125 pounds. I don't think Silva's got the strength to get her down to the mat. It's that simple. Barber will keep the fight standing, and Barber should be able to outstrike Creedy Silva the entire time. Barber wins by decision. And how now we look at 125, well, this is how we matchmake. Valentina versus Natalia Silva. We know Rose is fighting Alexa Grasso now in the first card of 2026. Blanchfield, you gotta fight Barber again, unless she refuses, and then we can see, no, but we can't do Fior Blanchfield again. We have to do Barber versus Blanchfield. What about Fior? I don't know. Go to a different weight class. Ooh. Kong Wang. Fior probably wins, but the UFC hasn't really been deterred yet from the Kong Wang hype train. That's the next fight. Just do it. Doesn't make sense, but we're all about the money now, so who cares? We're all about entertainment now in the UFC, so whatever. That's why, Diego Lopez is fighting Volkanovski for the belt. Whatever. Justice for Aljamain Sterling. Give me Macy Barber to win by decision over Creedy Silva. Next up, we go on to the entertainment business. No, this is a good fight. This is every Terrence McKinney fight. At the lightweight division, Terrence McKinney takes on Chris Duncan. A fight that was originally scheduled for a long time ago. I think 2022, 2023. It was 2023 this fight was supposed to happen back in on the Apex Sadykhov Edson Barboza main event. McKinney was supposed to fight Duncan. Duncan couldn't get to the States, visa issues, so Terrence McKinney then got to fight one of the random guys off the street they always bring in to fight him. No disrespect to Brandon Marat. That was actually very disrespectful. I apologize. He fights Brandon Marat, and of course, in Terrence McKinney fashion, he knocks him out in 20 seconds. Reminiscent of the Mike Breeden fight, and the Eric Gonzalez fight, and the Vaishlev Borshev fight. Guys who are not UFC level, and Terrence McKinney beating the hell out of him. Here's the Terrence McKinney problem, and we've talked about it before. He beats the low-level guys who aren't very good. Need I go over it again? Breeden, Gonzalez, Marat, Hadzovic, Borshev. He beats the guys who should no longer be in the UFC. And whenever McKinney fights a guy who's on any sort of high level, he loses. Let's go over them. Drew Dober, Ismail Bonfim, Nazim Sadykhov, Esteban Ribovic. Those are his 4 losses, his 7 wins. He's got some good wins. Don't get me wrong. Like, Frevola and Ziam are aging very well, right? Especially Ziam. But some of these wins, again, are Mike Breeden and the guys we've gone over, right? Before Breeden started barking at his opponent when he fought Anshul Jubli, right? McKinney, though, is coming off back-to-back wins, but it's against a guy who can't grapple in Slava Claus. We predicted that one easily. And an old Damir Hadzovic who was way past his prime, and I didn't even know why he was still in the UFC at that point. Chris Duncan's a highly skilled fighter. And Chris Duncan, I hate to say it, and I hate to give this away so quickly, but I mean, what do you want me to say? Chris Duncan's going to knock out Terrence McKinney in the first round. That's absolutely what's going to happen. Guys, I was so impressed by Chris Duncan's last fight. I was so impressed by his victory against Mateusz Rebecki. I remember we picked Chris Duncan to win. He was like a plus 200 underdog. And sure, I've picked against Rebecki quite a bit. He was a plus 200 dog, and we had quite a bet on Chris Duncan, and he came through. And I've picked against, I had money on Ludovic Klein to beat Mateusz Rebecki too, right? We pick against Rebecki all the time. Anyways, regardless, Duncan goes out there and wins a 3-round decision against Rebecki, and a fight in which pure striking. Duncan goes out there and gets it done. A guy who was built as this great grappler, and he is, still has, again, that striking game. And you can say, you can leave the numbers. Rebecki outstruck him. Damage-based scoring, who's doing more damage? It was Chris Duncan. Look at Rebecki's face at the end of the fight. I know Duncan's pretty messed up too, but Duncan did more damage in the fight. Duncan's strikes were landing harder than Rebecki's strikes were landing. Duncan gets the win. I was so impressed by Chris Duncan, man. Coming off now 3 consecutive wins, beating Balaji Oki by submission, submitting Jordan Vucenic. I know Vucenic's UFC run did not go that well. That was Vucenic's second UFC fight. He was a minus 300 favorite, and Duncan goes in there and submits him in the second round. Very impressed. Duncan knocks down Vucenic as well. Vucenic is good. He's going to be back in the UFC in like 3 fights. He's going to go back. Did he already win the Cage Warriors Championship again? I don't know. But he's going to win the Cage Warriors belt. He hasn't won it back yet. He's going to win the Cage Warriors belt, and he'll be right back in the UFC, okay? Vucenic, you've not heard the last of Jordan Vucenic in the UFC. He's very talented. Chris Duncan's beaten everyone in the UFC except for Manuel Torres. And I will talk about Manuel Torres in a little bit. It's the Terrence McKinney problem. And I like McKinney. I love watching McKinney fight, and the UFC will always have a place in the promotion for him because they will continue to give him legitimately the worst fighters on the roster because you know what's going to happen. McKinney's going to either end up on the wrong side of a highlight reel, like in the Bonfim fight where he got flying knee in the face and fell forward flat on his face, or he's going to go out there and give you a first-round finish to hype up the crowd. There's a reason as well McKinney never fights in the Apex. It's because he's always on cards to get a big pop out of the crowd. I mean, it's what he's here for. He's always putting on fun fights. McKinney is fight and die on his shield. Now, unfortunately for this fight, he's going to get knocked out in the first round. Duncan is the better, skillful fighter. And if Duncan gets in any trouble on the feet, he's going to take down McKinney and submit him as well, right? So, I'm thinking a very quick finish either way for Duncan. If Duncan feels any bit of trouble striking-wise, he can easily just go to his grappling and then put down McKinney there and submit him. I believe, though, it's going to be a knockout by the Scottish fighter. Chris Duncan picks up the win, and a huge one. He gets the first-round knockout victory over Terrence McKinney here in Vegas. On to our featured prelim, and a very good featured prelim at that. As Grant Dawson, who is now 11-1-1 in the UFC, takes on Manuel Torres, who's coming off the biggest win of his career over Drew Dober. There's a reason this fight is the final UFC fight on ESPN, the channel, because I think next week we're all on Plus. I might be wrong on that one, but I think so. I can fact check this. Yes, this is the last ever UFC fight on the channel ESPN. So Grant Dawson and Manuel Torres will be the last one on channel, whatever number it is. It used to be 38 on Xfinity. I don't know what it is now. Regardless, we're all on streaming now, aren't we? So anyways, Grant Dawson, Manuel Torres, the final fight on the channel ESPN. And it's a big one, man. I mean, Grant Dawson is one of the more underrated fighters in the UFC, and it really is not talked about the run that he's been on because he's not that entertaining is the reason. It's a problem we're having with the UFC right now. Non-entertaining champions, Hamza Chimaev, Valentina Shevchenko. Whatever. It is what it is, I guess, right? Go watch boxing then, right? Yeah, just go watch boxing. Grant Dawson is not that entertaining. I completely understand. He is a really good wrestler, though, and he just gives you hell on the mat. He's not a very good striker, as we saw in the Bobby Green fight, which is still one of the more confusing fights ever. How did he lose to Bobby Green? How did he lose? I did not watch that fight live. I will say that. I watched it. I checked my phone right after it happened. I was at an NBA game. I still, was that a simulation? Was that not real? Because how did Bobby Green knock him out in 33 seconds? I've watched it, obviously, now. I did not watch it live. So did that really happen? It's like the moon landing. Did that really happen? Because I didn't see it live. I'm not saying the moon landing is fake. I'm not. Totally not. Anyways. I just don't know how that happened. Dawson hasn't lost yet in the UFC. He looked like crap in the Ricky Glenn fight, right? He looked like he was going to pass out at the end of the third round in that fight, but that was only back in 2021. Dawson, since the Bobby Green fight, though, he's won now 3 in a row. He beat Joe Solecki. He finished Rafa Garcia. And then he beat Carlos Diego Ferreira, where he just laid on Ferreira for 15 minutes. Again, get a win. Good job. It's just the UFC's not very... They don't want to push you, obviously. And that's why Grant Dawson, who's 11-1-1, I don't even know if he's in the... is he even ranked? I don't even know if they have him in the rankings right now. Because they want nothing to do with Grant Dawson winning fights, but you can't cut him because you don't... Okay, he's number 13. But you can't cut him because you don't want PFL-ing a guy like this who, it's like a Mokaev situation, I guess. But obviously Dawson hasn't pissed anyone off backstage. And also, Grant Dawson, he doesn't have the best personality. Nothing against the guys. I can't name anything Grant Dawson has said after a fight other than that he loves his wife's ass. Let's just be honest. That's the only thing we've ever heard Grant Dawson say that, is somewhat memorable. So it's not like he's a big star. Again, I'm not, going after the guy's personality, but I'm just saying, he's not a big star. He's not this is a random shot. He's not like he's like Danny Sabatella where he's really boring, but he's going to go on the mic and talk shit after. No, it's just Grant Dawson's going to wrestle you, and that's it. I don't care who the UFC gives me. I'm a company man, and I'll fight the next guy in line, whoever the UFC wants me to fight. So now they're going to try to get him out of here with Manuel Torres. Torres coming off some huge wins. I mean, the Drew Dober victory is absolutely massive. I'm here to say Drew Dober's he's way past his prime. Like, good on him. He beat Prepolek, but the guy was losing 2 rounds to nothing to Prepolek until he came back and won. Like, great on Dober for winning that fight, but Dober 3 years ago would have had no trouble against Kyle Prepolek. So Torres beats Dober. We're in the beginning of the end, though, for the Dober run. He did get knocked out by Ignacio Bahamondes in the Sphere. Back-to-back wins prior to that, all by knockout against Frank Camacho, Nicholas Mota, and the Chris Duncan win was by submission, but that was a great victory. Now what do we get? We get Torres and Dawson. Can Torres stuff the wrestling is the question. 88% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC. Was able to stuff Duncan's takedowns. Can you do it against Dawson? Because that's all Dawson's going to offer you. The answer to that question is no. Again, the UFC, Dana is going to be watching that fight in the back, crossing his fingers that Manuel Torres, who, again, we know that they love Mexico. Diego Lopez is getting another title shot over Aljamain and not Mosfar. Mosfar doesn't deserve anything. Leron Murphy. You know they want Torres to win. They love the Mexican market. Not happening. I think Dawson's going to wrestle him. I think the UFC is going to be pissed. People are going to be booing. Featured prelim. ESPN's going to be saying, oh, thank God we got off this contract. Now we can lock in on our PFL contract next year. Dawson's going to go out there and just lay on him. I'm telling you. Yes, Torres' takedown defenses look really good so far. Grant Dawson is an exceptionally great wrestler. Is he an entertaining fighter? No. He is a very skilled fighter, though. You can't deny that from the guy. So I'm going to go Dawson to win by decision. It will not be fun, but Grant Dawson will win. So Grant Dawson beats Manuel Torres by decision. On to the main card. And we will kick things off in the main card with Jan Blachowicz and Bogdan Guskov. A fight that I don't think it's, the UFC's not going to cut Blachowicz if he doesn't win, but it's a key fight for Blachowicz in terms of remaining relevant at the top of light heavyweight, right? If Jan wants to remain somewhat of a factor in the title picture of sorts, he absolutely needs to beat Bogdan Guskov, and this is bigger than just this fight. Jan's 42. Blachowicz is 42. I don't know how many fights he really has left, and you have to start thinking, does he start to, ponder retirement? Now, it's an absolute shame the UFC is not going to go to Poland. I mean, I don't understand. Like this, we go to the Apex, but give Jan Blachowicz, if Jan Blachowicz decides, whenever he decides to hang it up, give him one more fight and let him fight in Poland. I mean, legendary Polish power. I mean, I know, again, you've had Polish stars before, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, obviously, but give Jan Blachowicz UFC fight in Poland and let that be his last fight in the UFC, okay? So whenever that may be, and he was pushing for that when he was the world champion, let Jan finish out his career over in Poland. And I don't know if that fight's going to be next year. I don't know if it's going to be in 2027. But he's 42, and you got to wonder, again, how many more fights does Jan truly have left in him? Now, his last fight, though, against Carlos Ulberg, I thought he won. Thought he beat Ulberg. Might be a hot take. Jan rounds 1 and 3. It was 1-1 going to the third. I thought Jan Blachowicz won the third round. Might be a hot take. Probably is. I don't think Ulberg's that good. I think Pineda's going to chin Ulberg in the first 3 minutes. But, I thought Jan, regardless if you think he beat Ulberg or not, I thought he fought fairly well. I thought he did. And Ulberg has just mastered the art of point fighting until Dominic Reyes got into a cage with him in Australia and went, and just decided to, just get knocked out and just decided, you know what, I'm full training camp for what? I want none of this. Whatever. Do we need to talk about Blachowicz' last 3 fights? Ankalaev, Ferreira, Ulberg. That is champion 1-2 in the weight class right now. You're telling me he can't beat Bogdan Guskov? No disrespect to Guskov. Guskov's best win is Nikita Krylov, and obviously Krylov, after coming back from the dead, has not been a very good fighter. With all due respect, I like Krylov quite a bit, but I mean, obviously Krylov is nowhere near the same guy after 2 years off. After, again, people thought he was legitimately no longer alive. He comes back, and he's nowhere near what he was prior to, again, the potential death, right? Krylov's fighting Bukowskis on the first ever Paramount card. I think he's going to lose. I don't know. I think Bukowski's probably going to land on him and knock him out. I'll get more into that, though. I'll do more stuff on that prior to that fight in mid-January, late January. But Guskov's wins, again, in the UFC are Zach Panga, Ryan Spann, Billy Alekina, Nikita Krylov. Lost to Volkan Oezdemir in his first fight by first-round submission. But just because you're able to beat Nikita Krylov does not mean you can beat Jan Blachowicz. Guskov hits hard, I will say that. Again, knocked out Kirlov in Abu Dhabi. Very great victory. Again, I thought Kirlov was going to win. That's the fight where I've now said, okay, kind of done with Kirlov for now until I'm proven wrong or until I'm shown otherwise. Beating Billy Lakin, does not move me. Ryan Spann winning the big 2024. Is Ryan Spann still in the UFC? Can anyone confirm that? Oh, he beat Brzeski. Yeah, he is. I forgot about that fight. Jan Blachowicz should be able to beat Guskov, and here's how, okay? I don't think Jan's getting knocked out, okay? Yan has not been knocked down since Thiago Santos in 2019. He's not an easy guy to put away, and I don't think Guskov has... I think he's got the power to knock him out, but I don't think he's got the all-around striking game. I don't think he can crack really what is a good defensive striking game out of Jan Blachowicz. You know, I mean, this is the guy who had to strike with Alex Pereira. Pereira knocks everybody out, and I understand there was a grapple and wrestling-heavy approach in that fight for Jan Blachowicz, but he didn't get finished there. This guy fought Israel Adesanya for 25 minutes, did not get finished. You know, fought Olberg for 15, was fine, didn't get knocked out. And here's the thing, too, right? Yes, he got outpointed by Olberg, and Pereira found a way to win a decision against him, and Ankalaev outgrappled him. I don't think Guskov has a good enough wrestling to, you know, outgrapple Blachowicz. We have not seen, by the way, Guskov actually attempt a takedown yet in the UFC or finish a takedown in the UFC. It's always been, you know, the Lake in a fight, he ended up with, you know, the guillotine, obviously, and finished the fight via the submission, right? Fight on the ground against the guillotine choke. It's just not a guy who's not going to go for takedown. So that's really not an aspect of this fight. It's pure striking. I don't think he's I don't think Guskov can knock him out, and by saying that, I don't think Guskov can win a 15-minute decision against Blachowicz, because I do think Blachowicz is good enough still. I mean, as we saw in the Olberg fight, his defensive striking is still good enough. He's not gonna get chinned. He's not, you know, he's still fundamentally aware of what's going on. Obviously, I'm talking about him like he's like 80, but you know what I mean. Like, he's still a decent defensive striker, and Yan should be able to find those shots on Guskov and win a decision. Will it be the most entertaining? It might be. It might be. It's just, Jan's last fight wasn't fun because Olberg's not fun. Blachowicz should be able to beat Guskov. I think he might be able to walk him down as the fight goes on. It's just, I mean, Guskov's never fought anybody on the Blachowicz level. And sure, he's 9 years younger than Yan, almost 10. Jan's 42, going on 43 early next year. But I do think he still finds a way to the victory. I'm going to go Blachowicz to beat Bogdan Guskov by decision. I just don't think Guskov's fought anybody on this level yet, and legendary Polish power still exists. I think Blachowicz, though, gets a decision victory. He's doing anything it takes to just get a victory and get back in the win column here. I think that's absolutely what he does against Guskov. Jan Blachowicz beats Bogdan Guskov by unanimous decision. We go on now to, man, what a fight. This is a weird one. Henry Cejudo takes on Payne Talbott. Henry Cejudo is a plus 200 underdog against Talbott. I'm seeing up to plus 225 on some books now for this. Oh, man. He should have never came back. He should have never came back, or he should have never retired. If Cejudo, one of the two, but let's say he just never came back and never fought Aljamain and then obviously went down his long descent, Henry Cejudo would be looked at as not a mythical figure, but a top 15-ish fighter of all time, even potentially top 10 fighter of all time, and one of the greatest combat sport athletes ever. Olympic gold medalist, two-division UFC champion, retired on top after knocking out Dominic Cruz. Nobody knocks out Dominic Cruz. Cody Garbrandt had the best performance that we've ever seen out of a one-night UFC fighter ever, and he couldn't knock out Dominic Cruz. Henry Cejudo did it with a knee in front of nobody, but still. He comes back, he fights Aljamain, loses, fights Merab, embarrassed, fights Song Yadong. Okay, here's this one, though. Have we noticed Jason Herzog has not refereed a fight since the whole Bulgarian situation? Just saying. That should be a no contest. And that's the truth on that fight. Main event in Seattle. I thought Cejudo was going to beat Song Yadong. I was wrong. But still, the fight should have been a no contest. First round happens. Okay. Song probably wins the first. Cejudo wins the second round. Awesome. Third round happens. It's a competitive round, but Song's probably winning until the eye poke happens. Okay, well, it's a 5-round fight, and Jason Herzog goes, again, there's 10 seconds left in the third round. He says, okay, hold on, it's time. Cejudo says, I can't see, man. I can't see out of this eye. So Herzog says, hold on. Okay, I need to restart the fight for 5 seconds. We're going to go to your corners, and then I'm going to call off the fight. Why did nobody question this at the time? It made no sense. So if Herzog's actually being investigated by the federal government or the FBI or whatever. I don't know if that's actually happening or not. I don't know if it's just a Twitter rumor or not. But still, if Herzog's actually not refereeing anymore, he's on James Krause watch or whatever. Why you can't restart a fight when a guy can't see? It's like, this is like, guys, if was it Herb Dean or was it Goddard who was the referee for the Aspinall fight? Regardless of who it was, that's if whoever the referee was for that fight said, okay, Tom, I need you to restart the fight. We're gonna end the round. I know you can't see, but like Cejudo couldn't see, but we need to restart the round, and then we're gonna get to the end of the round so we can score it. No, the fight ends when the eye poke happens. So Herzog goes lets the fight go on for 10 seconds. It resumes. Cejudo's like, I can't see. He's doing this. The commentators are going, oh man, I forget who the commentators was. It was like, I think it might have been DC, but they're going, oh man, like Cejudo still can't see, still pawing out his eye. And no strikes thrown the last 10 seconds. Cejudo's just retreating. They go back to the corners, and then Herzog waves it off. You can't do that. The fight should have been a no contest. So I don't know. I mean, as someone who had money on Henry Cejudo, I was very pissed, but it makes no sense. And I know, again, this isn't, we're talking about the downfall of Cejudo. That's crap. That's horrible. Song Yadong should not have won that fight. This should have been a no contest. You cannot restart a fight for 10 seconds when a guy can't see. The fight should have already been over right there. But, we need to get the technical decision. It needs to go into the third round. We need to complete 3 rounds so we can score it. No, dude, that's not how that works. We can't just gift Song Yadong a victory. Unbelievable stuff. Cejudo's now fighting Peyton Talbott, though. So, again, we talked about Cejudo's struggles. He was actually 1-1 with Yadong. It was 2-1. It was going to be 2-1. But still, he was in there with Song Yadong. He was going to fight Sean O'Malley next month. He goes from Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, and Song Yadong to Peyton Talbott. Talk about Dana White privilege. It's what, guys, if he was not Peyton Talbott and he wasn't Dana's guy, there's no chance he'd be getting this fight. If they weren't trying to make him the next O'Malley, there's no chance this happens. And trust me, they're already kind of setting this up. Barcelos was his Marlon Vera loss. And they're trying to, it's legitimately, he is on par with the O'Malley run right now. Legitimately. Cejudo is, I guess, his Pedro Munoz fight, where they just, don't forget, the UFC just kind of chalked the Munoz-O'Malley fight as, it's a win for O'Malley, even though he poked him in the eye. O'Malley wins. They are trying to put Talbott on that type of run right now. That's what they're trying to use Cejudo for here. Henry, show some damn self-respect and wrestle this guy. And put him on his back for 15 minutes. Guys, you are not telling me Cejudo can't beat Peyton Talbott. So I'm picking Henry Cejudo. Guys, if Felipe Lima can take down Peyton Talbott, if Howdy Barcelos can hold down Peyton Talbott, why can't an Olympic gold medalist? You're telling me Cejudo's that washed? He's that bad at fighting? He can't beat Peyton Talbott, out-wrestle Peyton Talbott? He doesn't need to strike. Wrestle this guy for 15 minutes. Put him on his ass. There's no shot. I know Talbott's so much bigger than Cejudo. Talbott's 5'10", Cejudo's 5'4". I don't care. You've been going from fighting world champions and the greatest fighters of all time at 135. In Dominic Cruz, Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, likely the top 3 bantamweights ever, to fighting this guy who's 4-1 in the UFC, who lost to Howdy Barcelos at 37? I know Barcelos is on a run right now, but are we serious? Guys, if Cejudo loses this, I'm serious, it's going to do horrible stuff to his all-time legacy. It is. This is going to do damaging stuff to his legacy. Because right now you look at his losses, okay, Demetrius Johnson, whatever, Benavidez, okay, but like prime Cejudo, Aljo, Merab, and the Song fight's weird because Herzog had money on Song, right? Obviously I'm joking, but am I? I don't know. And now this, you go from fighting those guys to Talbott, and sure, could Talbott eventually win the world championship? Like, again, at one point in time, we never thought O'Malley was going to win the belt, and he did, right? I don't think Talbott's anywhere near where O'Malley was in skill, though. So this is my point again. If Cejudo can just wrestle, he'll be fine. Something's up, though. Why is he a plus 200 underdog? I thought this was going to be even. I really thought so. I understand Cejudo's 38. He's talking about this might be his last fight. Well, show some damn self-respect and beat this guy. Because if you can't beat Talbott, I'm dropping Cejudo outside my top 50 all time. I'm dead ass. Like, this is what this means for Cejudo's legacy, not just my own rankings. It's like your legacy, dude. You're Triple C. You're a gold medalist. 2-division champion. You can't beat a guy who's had 5 UFC fights, who got out-wrestled 10 months ago by Raoni Barcelos? You're Henry Cejudo. Oh, man, if he doesn't win this fight, I don't know what to say, man. Cejudo decision, yes. Henry wrestles this guy for 15 minutes. He was 1 round away from beating Aljamain Sterling. He was, come on, no shot, man. No way he loses to Peyton Talbott. He won a round against Merab Dvalishvili. He took down Merab. Cejudo by decision. Oh, he better win. Next up, featured prelim. Brandon Moreno, Tatsuro Taira. Potentially the winner of this fight should get a title fight, especially if it's Taira. Obviously, the UFC is going to kind of bill it that way. They don't do the best job of promoting their fights, and fighting on the same card as a champion doesn't really mean anything now, because apparently Usman's going to fight Makhachev for the belt, because, oh, sure, when you got Ian Gary winning, Michael Morales winning, Prata's winning, just give it to Usman. Okay. Because, yeah, Diego Lopez deserves a title shot, too. Like, it just... Whatever, man. Even though, and it doesn't matter what Dana White says anymore. Dana can say, oh, yeah, the winner of Morales, Brady's going to get a title shot. Totally. Yeah, 100%. And then, nope, not what we want. Okay. I understand Makhachev beats Morales probably, but that's the fight I want to see. Sure, I'd love to see Usman fight. Sure, he's won 1 fight in the last 4 years. Last 3 years. So I don't know. Again, like, potentially is this the number 1 contenders fight? Maybe. Moreno and Taira, potentially. I mean, Moreno's already lost 3 times to Pantoja, so do we need to see him lose a 4th time? I don't know. As for Tatsuro Taira, the UFC has been trying to make Taira an established star for quite a bit. You can see that by how many times he's main evented an Apex card. Count him 3 times now. Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, and Hyung Seung Park in his last fight. He lost to Royval, and Royval is fighting next week, which should be really the number 1 contenders fight. It should be Royval versus Kopp, but honestly, hear me out. I'm not against making the winner of this fight the winner of next week's main event, because you know who should really get the title fight? Kyoji Horiguchi. Kyoji Horiguchi had the perfect call out. He beats Ulanbekov. Why he was an underdog made 0 sense to me. Whoever sets the lines doesn't watch Rise, and they don't understand how good Horiguchi is. And I don't even watch Rise and like that either, but I watch Horiguchi fights. Anyways, that's the next title fight. Horiguchi and Pinto just train in the same gym. We're gonna get like a Woodley Covington situation here. It's gonna be great. I don't think they're gonna beef like those guys did. But regardless, I'm so that's the fight I can really get behind. Or sorry, Van too. Whoops. We'll get to that in a second. So the winner of this fight should fight the winner of Royval Kopp. So it should happen. And I'll get into more of that next week when we know who the winners of these flyweight fights are. But Taira Moreno's a good fight. I mean, it's a fight that makes sense. The UFC's been trying to get Taira to the top for quite a bit now, again, with this booking. And they give him Moreno. A Moreno who I think is slowly fading. I know he's won back-to-back fights. Who has he beat, guys? He beat Amir Albazi, who, where is Amir Albazi? Why is he in the top 5? Who has he beat? I don't know. Kai Kara France in a robbery, and I don't even like Kai Kara France at all, but he did. Who's not even in the UFC anymore, by the way, Kai Kara France. Moreno beat the crap out of Albazi in a 5-round main event in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Great. It was 50-44, 50-43. And then he beat Steve Erceg in his last fight. Duh. Erceg should have lost to, my guy, Picasso. Ode Osborne beat Steve Erceg, and nobody's telling me otherwise, right? So, I am not moved by Moreno's last 2 wins. Erceg outstruck him, honestly. Volume-wise, he outstruck him. Obviously, more damage is being done by Moreno. And, I thought Moreno won, but, Moreno's not been fighting well. He lost to Royval in Mexico as well. That was a pretty clear decision for Royval. Shouldn't even been a split, but it's okay. Pantoja obviously beat him a while ago for the belt. I'll say it, I think Taira's beating Moreno. I do think so. Taira's the future of the weight class. Taira's been looking good. Yeah, did he not look good striking-wise against Royval? No, he couldn't hold Royval down. He did, but he didn't do anything with the takedowns on Royval. And if that fight was a 3-round fight, I think it goes fairly well for... no, I think Taira would have lost a 3-round fight. Because Royval won 1-3-5. But I think if it was a 3-round fight, maybe Taira gets it, because it's just a different mindset. Okay, I just got to go in here and out-wrestle for 10 minutes, and then who cares about the last round? I don't know. But I'll say this might be a hot take. I don't think it is. I think Royval's better than Moreno. I just saw that fight a year and a half ago, and the proof is in their last couple fights. Look at who Royval is beating, and look who Brandon Moreno's beating, right? I mean, Royval did lose to Josh Van, but that's the number one contender who's fighting for the belt. He's going to fight Manel Kape. I mean, nobody wants the Kape fight, and Royval is going to take it again. Hopefully, Kape actually shows up to the main event, which, again, is very tricky booking Manel Kape in a main event of a UFC pay-per-view, or not pay-per-view, fight night, but sure, okay, go ahead. I think Taira's going to beat Moreno. I think Moreno's wrestling's always been good, sure. I don't know if anyone's really tested it like this since Pantoja, other than Pantoja. Not really. Pantoja put Moreno down and held him down a little bit. Again, I mean, obviously we know the wrestling game out of him. Taira is so persistent on that takedown, and his top control time is really good too. Striking-wise, Moreno's better, I will say that. Moreno is going to have the advantage on the feet. I think Taira's going to out-grapple him, guys. I think Taira is just better than Moreno wrestling right now, and it's just, yeah, Moreno's 31. He's still in his physical prime. Guys, it's so many wars. He's been fighting at the top of this weight class since 2019. 2020, if you want to say it. Sure, the first Royval fight. He's been at the top of the weight class for that long. I don't like, he's still fighting high-level fights. Good on him. And he found a way to get some easy matchups against Albazi and Urseg. Sure, don't love the fight against him and Taira. With him and Taira, I'm taking Tetsuro to win the fight. I mean, Tetsuro Taira to out-grapple and out-wrestle Brandon Moreno. Taira wins against Moreno by decision. I would like to see him fight the winner of Manel Kape and Brandon Royval. If it's Royval again, sure, he needs to get that fight back. If it's Kape, great stylistic fight. That could really determine who the number one contender is. So Taira wins by decision. He's still going to win one more to get his shot because Horiguchi's next. And Horiguchi's next against the winner of this fight. Alexandre Pantoja, minus 250 favorite over the plus 200 underdog, and Joshua Van. It's a fight that's been, in the makings for a little bit, obviously. International Fight Week, Alexandre Pantoja beats Kai Kara-France. Kai Kara-France with the most undeserved title fight ever, but whatever. I guess Kai Kara's no longer in the UFC. Great. Pantoja wins earlier on that card. Obviously, one of the better fights of the year, maybe the best fight of the year. Joshua Van, Brandon Royval, phenomenal bout. Joshua Van, though, does enough to pick up the victory. The rise to the top has been quick for Van. 9 fights in 3 years. This is going to be fight number 10 in 3 years, not even a full 3 years. And here we go. He will be getting Alexandre Pantoja for the World Championship. Joshua Van is 24 years old, which is still not younger than John Jones when John Jones won the belt, which is just incredible. I mean, not to glaze John Jones, but legitimately when Jones winning the belt when he did, absurd stuff. I mean, at the age that he did as well, crazy. But still, Van can be, I think he's the second. I think he become the second youngest UFC fighter ever, or UFC fighter ever, second youngest UFC champion ever, I think. Because Jones was 21 or 22 when he won it. Van might be number 2. I don't know if he's the second youngest. Regardless of all that, though, actually, I guess I can check this right now. Aldo was 24? Really? Okay. Carlos Newton was 24 too? Okay, well, Van's going to be in the mix. I don't know where technically, if he wins. Okay, he would be the second youngest champion ever. He would be younger than Aldo when Aldo won it. So, okay, yeah. It'd be Jones. Jones is 23. Van would be 24, and Van would be the second youngest champion ever. I don't know. Van is really fun on the feet. He's got great striking game, great volume. The problem with anyone fighting Alexandre Pantoja is the grappling. And you have to be an exceptionally great wrestler and defensive wrestler and a good grappler as a whole to beat him. And I'll say this now, Josh Van does not have the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling to beat Pantoja. Unless he can knock Pantoja out, which it's not really what Van does. Van over time can knock you out and over time can put you down, but he's not going to really do it with one shot. Like, it's going to sound crazy. Like Kai Kara-France had the potential of doing. Obviously, that was the only fear for Pantoja in his last fight. But for Josh Van, his only way of winning this fight is if he can stuff takedowns consistently and force Pantoja to fight his fight. Pantoja's not getting any younger. He's 35, but I'll tell you this. Pantoja is going to get that takedown. And this might sound crazy. I think Pantoja is going to finish Josh Van in the first round. I think there's a lot of hype on Van. He's 24. He's going to get another title shot eventually. He just needs to keep winning. Even though this path to the belt for him has felt really set up for him just because, he's got all the right guys and he's been active, so obviously he gets those fights. But the UFC rewards activity, obviously he'll always stay in the top 10-ish. He's never really been tested against a really good wrestler. Last time he saw a decent wrestler, Ray Tsura got 4 takedowns against him and got 2 in the first round. Now, he could not hold Josh Van down. You got to give credit to Van for getting up. But if Ray Tsura can take you down multiple times in a fight, Pantoja definitely will as well. Cody Durden was able to take down Josh Van, and that's the most important fight in all of this. UFC 310, last pay-per-view of last year, Pantoja versus Asakura in the main event. On the undercard, Durden fights Josh Van. Van wins the fight, in my opinion, probably 2-1. I don't know how you want to score that first round, but what happens in the first round is Cody Durden takes down Joshua Van and holds down Joshua Van and puts him on his back the entire first for the most part. Van outstrikes him early in the round, but then Van goes out there and gets the takedown. Okay, Van's got 3.5 minutes of control time in that first round. If Alexandre Pantoja does the same exact thing Cody Durden does to Josh Van, Van's not going to get back up. And the fight's going to be over by the next time he's going to get up. Because if that happens this early in the fight, where they're dry, no sweat, Pantoja's going to lock in a body triangle. He's going to find a way to the back, or he's going to arm triangle. Probably, rear naked choke's usually the submission of choice for Pantoja. He's going to find a way to his back, and he's going to submit Van in the very first round. That's what's going to happen. And that's my prediction. I think Pantoja's going to fight a takedown really early. You know, I know lots of people, man, oh, how boring is Pantoja? Oh, he lays on guys. Okay, it's not fair to say Pantoja's a boring fighter. The Moreno fight was excellent on the feet. The Urseg fight, yeah, did it feel like he was, diving on legs some? Sure. But every other title fight for Pantoja, he's gotten finishes. Asakura finished him. Kai Kara-France finished him. The Royval fight, whatever. But still, last two fights have been, all action type fights for Pantoja. Beat Kai Asakura, gets on the mic after the fight. You thought I was going to let some Japanese come here and take my belt? No offense, I'm the best. And it's true. Pantoja's the best. Is he the greatest flyweight of all time? Unfortunately, I don't think we can say that yet. He's not in Demetrius Johnson range yet. He's getting there, I'll say that. I would do a lot to get Pantoja versus Mighty Mouse. Obviously, Demetrius Johnson has shown no interest in that, and Mighty Mouse said himself that he probably wouldn't be at his best, obviously, for that fight at this point of his career. And Pantoja might actually get him. I don't think he's outright said Pantoja would beat him, but there's a chance Pantoja probably beats Mighty Mouse right now. Pantoja's beating Josh Van, undoubtedly. I like what Van does. Van's fun. He's a great striker. He's all action. He's got power on the feet. But again, that power comes over time, and that power comes after constant pressure. You're not going to have that much time on the feet against Pantoja. Ask Urseg how that goes, right? Urseg's had moments. Royval had moments in the feet against Pantoja. Asakura went for it early, taken down. Kai Kara-France goes for it, gets taken down. That's just what Pantoja does to guys, man. He puts them on their back, and he finds ways to submit them. Same can be said about Joshua Van. I know we want to get excited about the hype train. Yes, again, Van's fun. I love the run. Let's be honest with ourselves here. This is Alexandre Pantoja's win. He'll get it by first round submission. The fight that needs to be made, if this is a quick finish, March, Pantoja Horiguchi. You know what? Go to Japan, do a fight night main event, Pantoja Horiguchi for the belt in Japan. You've been waiting for your Japanese star? Oh, is it? You can put Taira on the co-main. You can put Taira versus the winner of Kopp and Royval. UFC's sake, you're hoping it's Kopp because Kopp has a pass in Japan with Ryzen. And you can main event a Japan card. Pantoja, hell, make it a pay-per-view for all I care. I don't care. This would be a fun pay-per-view. Pantoja versus Horiguchi main event. Again, you can make a numbered card. The UFC can do as many pay-per-views as they want now because they're Paramount. Numbered card. They can do 3 numbered cards a month if they really wanted to. They're not. But Pantoja, Horiguchi, co-main, Taira versus Kopp. And since nobody's paying for the pay-per-views anymore, we don't care what you put on the card. Put fun Japanese talent on there and make it a numbered card. Pantoja, Horiguchi, co-main, Taira versus hopefully Kopp for the UFC's sake. But if it's Royval, whatever. Throw that on there too. Boom. I just booked you a numbered card in March in Japan. Pantoja beats Van in the first round. Hell, Van probably can be on that card too. He's not from Japan, but he's from Asia, obviously. So throw Van on the card too against, give him Steve Ursig. There you go. I just built you a card. Or give him Albazi. Just built you a card right there. Pantoja first round submission. Main event. The rematch, Merab Dvalishvili is a -500 favorite against the challenger, the former world champ, Petr Yan. Credit to Yan, man. I will say this. Credit to Yan for finding his way back into this situation, finding his way back into this spot, right? We kind of thought Yan was done in terms of title contention after that initial Merab loss, right? He was coming off a loss to Aljo, then Sean O'Malley, and kind of a robbery. It was a robbery, but okay. And then Merab. And he gets 50-40 forward by Merab Dvalishvili. Merab breaks the record for most takedown attempts in a fight with, let me get this right, 49, I believe it was. It was, yes, 11 for 49 in that fight from Merab Dvalishvili. He broke Petr Yan. You know, it was the fight that really got put on display. Okay, how good this guy's cardio is in a 5-round fight. Merab shook his hair. Merab was, I think he was shaking DC's hand at the end of the fight, and Yan went like this at the end of the fight. I mean, Merab broke this guy. That's important in this equation, by the way. It's very important. The last time Yan fought Merab, he was broken. And it was the fight. Yeah, Yan had lost fights, and he's come back and won 3 in a row since. We've never seen Petr Yan in an octagon like that, though. Right? Like, some people will say maybe he beat Aljamain the second time. I don't think so. I thought Aljamain pretty clearly won the first 3 rounds. But if you want to say Yan wins, whatever. I don't think you're right, but sure. Myself included, a lot of people thought he beat Sugar Sean. Okay. Despite what you think about the winners of the Aljamain fight and the Sean O'Malley fight, we have never seen Yan broken in there. We've never seen him deterred. We've never seen him in there just completely look lost and defeated. That's what happened against Merab Dvalishvili. And is it crazy? It's not crazy to say. Merab's gotten better. Merab has gotten better. Petr Yan's going to get a title shot after beating Marcus McGee. And I get it. Who else were you going to give it to? I don't know. I mean, I guess, yeah, it was him or Song Yadong. And, well, Yan beat Song. So it has to be Petr Yan. I know Merab wanted to fight Divas and Figueiredo. Figgy's going to get his number 1 contenders fight. If Figgy beats Umar, he'll get his fight. And it looks like, I guess Umar's probably going to be next. I'll get into that later, I guess. It's probably going to be Umar next, but we'll talk about it as a chance how it's not Umar, and I'll tell you how. But still, because I don't think the UFC wants to give Umar a shot. I don't think they're really that fond of Nurmagomedov. But anyways, if he didn't have the last name, they would not care about him at all. But we have never seen Yan completely deterred in there except for against Merab Dvalishvili. And here we go again. Guys, looking at Yan versus McGee, it wasn't that impressive. He beats Marcus McGee, and he calls for the title shot after, and yeah, he deserves the title fight, so they gave it to him, but it was not an impressive victory at all. He wins, he loses the first round to Marcus McGee, and that's just Petr Yan's thing, right? Oh, he downloads information in the first round. Sure. You can't do that against Merab, because Merab's going to do the same thing every round. And Merab's striking is getting better too. He's getting to the point where you can't knock this guy out. And Sandhagen said it best. And that's the thing. Corey Sandhagen said it best after Merab beat Sean the second time. And Merab called out Sandhagen and said, okay, you're next. Because Merab obviously likes to set up his fights. And I guarantee he's going to call probably somebody out after this fight too, even though there's really no clear number 1 contender after this. But regardless, Sandhagen said this right after Merab beat O'Malley for the second time. He said, well, a guy like this, you have to knock him out. And that's my game plan for my fight. Like, if I can't knock this guy out, I can't beat him. I'm not going to beat this guy by decision. And no truer words have ever been spoken by Sandhagen. Just in general, too, like, that's the absolute truth about Merab. You can't out-cardio this guy. You can't beat him by decision. You probably can't submit him either because of how good his wrestling is. You're not going to get, you're probably not going to catch him in a guillotine choke, right? You have to knock him out. Petr Yan hasn't knocked anybody out on the feet, since Uriah Faber back in 2019, where he head kicked him in the face. He's not knocking Merab out. And we also need to say, like, Merab's chin is actually historically great, too. I know I'm going to refer to a fight where Marlon Moraes was way past his prime, but it's still the truth. Moraes hit Merab with everything he had, to the point where you thought the fight was going to get stopped. Nope, Merab keeps on working, Merab keeps on pushing, and Merab ends up finishing Moraes in that same exact round. You can't beat this guy. He's 34. We're not going to talk about him getting, old, I don't think, until 36. That's why I think Merab's taking so many fights right now to establish the legacy and build the legacy and fight 3-4 times a year. Hell, this is fight number 4 this year for Merab. You don't see any fighter do this, let alone champions do this anymore. In the age of inactivity, Merab Dvalishvili fighting 4 times in 1 year, defending the belt 4 different times. Saying, okay, every challenger, let's go. And sure, the one threat to the belt I think's Umar. It is. And I'll get to how I think the division's going to go. I don't think Umar deserves to get a shot after being Divas, by the way. We'll talk about that. Merab will beat Petr Yan again. Yan's got good power, I'll give you that. Not good enough to knock Merab out. He's got good striking. What happens when Merab shoots 50 takedowns on him again? Merab Dvalishvili just broke a record for most takedowns in a single fight. He had 20 takedowns against Corey Sandhagen. He shot 37. That's a 54% takedown accuracy rate. 20 for 37 in a fight. How do you beat this guy when that's what he does all fight long? And Yan did all right defensively against Merab the first time around. He did all right to the point where it was only 50-44. Yeah, he's in trouble. He's in big trouble. I remember, by the way, I took Merab in that fight as a plus 200 dog. Don't forget. At the Virgin Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. We had Merab Dvalishvili plus 200 going into that Yan fight. I saw the vision really early on Merab. All I needed to see was, he trains with Aljamain Sterling. He's a Serra Longo guy. Yeah, cardio for days. Wrestling, yeah. But Merab's one of these entertaining wrestlers. He's fun because he actually actively tries to finish a fight. Look at the last Sean O'Malley fight. I don't see how Yan wins. I don't know. Guys, nothing has changed since the first fight. Oh, the first fight was 2.5 years ago. Yeah, okay. What has Yan done? Okay, well, he won a 2-1 decision over Song Yadong. He beat an aging Dawson Figueiredo. And he beat Marcus McGee, who's not even in the top 10. What has Merab done? Oh, yeah. He's only beaten Henry Cejudo, out-wrestled an Olympic gold medalist. He beat Sean O'Malley not once, but twice. He beat Umar Nurmagomedov, who's undefeated and supposed to be the next big thing. I beat him. And he beat Corey Sandhagen, too. Somehow, Corey Sandhagen's the least relevant name he's beaten. Petr Yan, if Petr Yan had beaten Sandhagen in this last run, for the second time, obviously, it would have been. But if Yan had beaten Sandhagen en route to his next title shot, that would have been the most relevant name he had gotten in terms of where they're at the current time. Is it an undeserved title fight? No, because who else would you have given it to? The argument would have been maybe Mario Bautista should have gotten it before he fought Umar. Maybe you should have given it to... That's really it. It would have been Bautista's the only guy that you could have kind of warranted. Obviously Pantoja, but Pantoja's already said, I don't want the fight. I'm going to lose. So, fair, I guess. And what are you going to say to the guy? Okay, sure. Like, you're not going to win. Why do it? It's the only fight they could make. So, yeah, Merab's going to win. Somehow, this feels like the easiest Merab title fight to pick so far. And he's the biggest favorite that he's been in any single title fight that he's had. Sandhagen's minus 450 because there was a threat of, Sandhagen's got good jiu-jitsu. He throws the knees and he catches Merab. We've already seen Yan and Merab. And Yan's not going to knock him out. So that means Yan needs to outclass Merab in 15 out of the 25 minutes. It's not happening, guys. It's not happening. Just the pace Merab fights at, the wrestling Merab has, and the cardio Merab has. Nobody's beating Merab, let alone Petr Yan, a guy he's already dominantly beat before. This one's pretty easy, guys. Merab Dvalishvili will beat Petr Yan and retain the Bantamweight Championship, beating Yan by unanimous decision. And now we need to have the conversation about Merab Dvalishvili being a top 10 fighter of all time. Who's next, though, for Merab is the real question. I think it's one of two names. And I don't think Nurmagomedov deserves it, but if this happens, if this sequence of fights happen, it has to be him. And that is Umar beats Dawson, which is ridiculous. That fight should not happen. It's just, he gets to fight Bautista and Dawson on his way back to the title fight. Are we serious? Dawson barely got by Montel Jackson, and we're gonna great. Umar's gonna fight an old Dawson Figueiredo. If Dawson wins, automatically he should get the title fight. If Umar wins, and then it's on the same card. If O'Malley beats Song Yadong and Umar beats Dawson, it has to be Umar. You can't do a third fight with Sean, even though the UFC might be tempted to. You can't do it. If Figueiredo beats Umar, then it should be Figueiredo. If Umar beats Figueiredo and Song beats O'Malley, they're going to go Song versus Merab. Because why wouldn't you? It's a new fight. And then you can just say, Umar, okay, go fight. There's really no one else for it. He would have to, fight Yan. You'd have to fight Yan. That'd be happy to fight that happen. That would happen. Because other than these guys, right? How can I forget Ayman Zahabi's in the mix? You know what? If I'm Merab, I'm calling out Ayman Zahabi. Yeah, I actually am. He's the only guy who doesn't have a fight. And it's easy money. Zahabi's 38. He's now or never. Ooh, UFC goes to Canada once or twice a year. They always do a Canadian pay-per-view. Actually, no, there is a call-out from Rob. He should call out Ayman Zahabi. Absolutely. Because he can say, well, I've already beat Umar. Sean's going to fight Song. I think Sean's going to win, so it's going to eliminate Song, who hasn't fought for the belt yet. It's Ayman Zahabi, who's on a 6-fight winning streak and just beat Aldo and Chito Vera in back-to-back fights. Yep, that's the fight. I'm serious. That's the fight. I'm not saying it's the best fight to make, but if I'm Merab, absolutely I'm calling him out. Let's hope Ayman Zahabi's in the crowd. And, I'm sure Dana's going to love a Dvalishvili Zahabi co-main event of a card probably under, Aspinall gone too. Oh, man. Merab wins, and the call-out is actually Zahabi. Zahabi still doesn't have a fight made, and that's weird. All the pieces have been put together. Umar's fighting Figueiredo. Song's fighting O'Malley. I guess you could say maybe they're going to do Zahabi and Sandhagen. Sure. If I'm Merab, I'm calling out Ayman Zahabi, and I'm collecting another paycheck in March. Merab Dvalishvili wins by decision. We shall see what's next again for the machine. Folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC 323 predictions here on the channel. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for our PFL Mana predictions and on Thursday for our UFC 323 best bets as well. Make sure to join us next week again for the final UFC card of 2025 with Brandon Royval and Manel Kopp from the UFC Apex. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. And Mamba forever.